Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited today to have my wonderful friend Seph Dietlan here with us. I've been looking forward to this for so long. Oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. Seph, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is great.
It's so wonderful. We've been chatting for like a half an hour this morning, getting ready for this. And we are going to talk about angels today, everything angels. Seph is an amazing messenger. He's like the messenger of the messengers. And he just is so tapped into the angelic realms. And I'm super excited for him to be here. Very quickly, I want to open up with a little prayer for all of us to invite the angels in. So all of you that are watching can also just really connect up with those angels, receive and feel that angelic energy, because I feel that this is the way forward. I really feel like this is the way forward for humanity, is to have that angelic connection. So
that's why they're more active than ever.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's why they're reaching out and connecting with us personally.
Yep.
And no longer hiding behind the subtlety.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Right.
connecting angel people together too.
Yeah.
Because you were such a blessing coming into my life too. So this
Yes.
is so cool.
Yes.
Let's call them in, calling all angels. Let's all take a nice deep breath. Just breathing in and breathing out. And everybody, just allow yourself to relax. Just give yourself a moment to allow any tension, any worries, any concerns that you may have had before you jumped in here with us, just roll off your body. And I invite you to take a nice deep breath, breathing in, breathing out, just feeling that tension melt away. And as you allow that energy to melt away, as you allow the third dimensional life to just kind of dissolve around you, you open up space for our beautiful angels to come in. So I invite each of you to take one more nice deep breath, breathing in and breathing out. And we just speak to all that is sacred and holy, that is of true love and true light. And we invite you in to be here with us today. And we call upon the beautiful angels of love and light, the sacred and holy ones who are here helping humanity. And the angels, beloved ones, we know you help us with our everyday lives. You help us with spiritual growth. And you're also helping us as we move forward into a new earth, into a new way of being, and on the path of ascension, of growing and becoming. And holy angels, we thank you so much. We thank you so much for Seph, that is just bringing your messages out into the world in such a powerful, powerful way. And we thank you to all of our viewers, every single one of them. We just ask that each and every one is blessed with your angelic presence, that connection becomes a blessing in all of their lives too. And holy ones, we know that as we ask these things, it is already done. That is a universal law. As you ask, so you shall receive. And in knowing that, we just say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as we speak it, so it is, abracadabra. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, angels. Yes.
Yes, thank you, angels. I could just feel them coming in. It was so wonderful. And it's funny, I've started using abracadabra instead of amen at the end of prayers, because abracadabra literally means as we speak, so it is.
Right.
And that is the power of manifestation, understanding that what we speak is that manifestation. And so it cracks people up, which I love to do. And so
Right. You got to laugh. You got to laugh.
oh, we do.
Yes.
It's the sound of angels. I one time had Archangel Michael tell me that when people laugh, it's to the angels. That is the sound of them, of the angelic presence coming out in humanity. So Seph Dietlan.
Yes.
Yay!
Michele.
I'm so
Yes.
happy.
Me too. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about you. Tell my people who you are and why I love you so much.
Oh, well, the love is the key word, right? Because
Mhm.
love is the creative force or the creative building block of the physicalized universe. So a lot of people like to hear a bit about how I went from being a normal, regular, everyday person living in Orange County, California, doing what I can to do what you do in the world of form, which is stack that paper, make that
Yeah.
money, that never-ending quest for things that don't fulfill you, right?
Yep.
And yet we still keep on going. And in the middle of that, and actually discovering that it doesn't quite have that satisfying effect, and in the middle of also bringing in a bit of a one-sided relationship, I found myself at a bit of a drop, a big one, which caused a reaction you call like a bit of a meltdown, a nervous breakdown, or whatever. Uh, and as that happened, funny enough, I went to bed and I hadn't, let's say, talked to you know who upstairs for a very long time. And I said, all right, you know what? I want to come back. Can I just go to sleep and come back? And the minute I asked, I was like, oh no, I'm not getting that wish granted. I said, you know what? That's fine. Then I'm going to up my request. I'm going to shift my request. I want my guardian angels. I want them now, and I want them to make a tangible connection with me. I don't want to believe that something is there that I can't talk to or whatever, especially right now. I want a tangible connection. And the minute I asked, I felt something touching me all over. I felt a voice inside saying, Seph, everything is not just going to be okay. It's going to be better than okay. And I felt overwhelmed with a sense of peace. We would call that heart and mind cohesion now, where the higher self came into full integration. So the mind couldn't be screaming its fearful narrative. And I was overcome with this peace. And if that wasn't enough, my dog and cat jump up on the bed and they start looking around because they could see these sacred beings around. They could actually see their presence. So I was like, wow. And the joke that I like to make is when this happened, I said to myself, I'm never going to be able to tell anyone about this. They're going to think I'm crazy. And of course, now I'm going on podcasts and I teach people and I go do public speaking about this experience, this thing that I was never going to tell anyone about. So the next thing that happened was the following morning, I woke up and I had remembered and I thought, wow, was that a dream? Did I make that up or what happened? And the minute that I was asking, I heard that voice inside go, hello. And I'm like, hello. And so, and just to explain what it is so that the audience can have access to it, it isn't like an actual sound inside. It's a thought inside that speaks to you from second person.
Yeah.
And it will say something like, to us, usually like you should go do this or you would do this. This is going to be okay. It'll tell you like another person speaking to you, but it's an impression that you have as a thought that comes in. It comes from awareness, so it's not a thought per se. It comes through awareness. So it turns out that they shared with me by being able to hear what they had to say. They said, you may think that we came to you just for this situation, but we're going to be working together from now on. And I'm like, okay. And as time went on, first they started to really integrate into my life, telling me what I should do, not in a bossy way, but in a powerful way, in a miraculous way. They would share with me events that would unfold, and they would. And I would just feel so much love with them. And I thought, well, this is amazing. And of course, once you connect with them, you're not like, okay, I'm done with that. I'll go back to my regular, contracted, flattened, fear-based life. I'm going to stay with this. So one of my favorite experiences that happened right up front is that I came home from doing an open house. I was in real estate in Orange County, and I put my keys on the countertop, and Angel said, oh, go to Disneyland. And I was like, what? And of course, I live, where you live, right here in South Orange County. And I got on the freeway. I exited Harbor Boulevard, and there was a woman with her little boys that was stuck off the side of the off ramp there at Harbor Boulevard. So I pulled over. They didn't have a phone. I helped them, get a tow, get, to her husband to come and pick her up. And I sort of stuck with them for a little while. So she asked me what do you do? Making reference, I think, to the car. And I said, well, I'm a real estate agent. She said, oh, give me your card. I said, you don't have to send me business just because I helped you. She goes, no, give me your card. So the next morning I got to the office and there was a beautiful message saying, thank you for stopping and helping. It's because of you that I believe in angels again.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yes, so that was a wonderful validation, but the angels knew that she was going to be there. So they found a way to send me in there. So I was like, to the angels, I'm like, can you do this more? Can you send me in to create miracles? Can I be your sort of your sort of lackey on this side? Can I do your dirty work over in this side? And I said, I really did. I asked. It was so much fun. It was so much fun just to hear that and do that. They started doing it more and more. It was so much fun. And then when I got the idea that I knew that they were talking to me when I would see like the feathers and coins. And I used to have a post office box down in Laguna Beach. And for 7 years, I checked this, post office box almost every day. And one day I came out of the post office and I literally see a white feather manifest itself in thin air in front of my face. And then it starts to drift to the left. And I looked down in the alleyway and there was a metaphysical bookstore there named the Chakra Shack. And I had got
there.
Did you?
I worked there for 3 years.
Oh, I worked there once too later on. But
wow.
yeah, so I look over there and I think, wow, I've been checking the mailbox here and I've never seen this place. So if you remember when they were located next to the post office, there were all those profiles. And there was a profile of an angel communicator. And it was Tuesday, and she worked Tuesdays. And she happened, it happened to be during her shift. So I walk in, I say, is she available to communicate or to do a reading? Turned out that back then you had those calendars where they just wrote the names in, and a name was scratched out for the spot that was 5 minutes from that moment. And they said she just had a cancellation. So I went back there, and of course, she, without being provocated by my giving her context, she saw the angels and realized that I had connected with them, which was also very magical for me. So all of this started taking place. And then at some point, I remember they shared with me, well, the reason that you have this gift, they said, you will eventually lose everything that you have in order to serve. But the world is going to change, and it's going to change dramatically. Mm-hmm. And they said to me, it won't look anything like what it looks like now. In fact, they said every linear structure that exists, such as government, money system, medical system, et cetera, you will be more powerful as souls in the body. You won't need those systems anymore at all. Mm-hmm. And humanity is all going to wake up spiritually. So to those of you in the audience that have found yourself waking up, and the collision of that timeline between all the other stuff that's going on in the world, it's all related. It's all connected.
It's happening.
Yeah. So they started to define the new earth for me. And eventually, when the real estate market crisis hit in Orange County, I did lose everything, but I knew what was happening. Literally a week before the market froze up, the angels said, "You're ready? Are you ready to let it all go?" And I said, okay. And a week later, houses stopped selling and all of that sort of stuff. So the house went by foreclosure and all of that. And yeah, so they took me to film school, so I'd learn how to create content, which we're going to be doing here coming up around the consciousness movement and such. And then throughout this time, this last 20 years, they've really talked to me a lot about this period of time that we're in. and they've brought me into, they guided me into becoming a certified hypnotherapist because of the connectivity to the higher mind
Yep.
and energy healing modalities. And those are all tools to actually assist people, individually and collectively at this time to navigate through these very interesting times.
Wow, what a story. That is so exciting. I love it. Seth, there's so many gifts and things that we all receive, that we experience. And sometimes we kind of poo-poo them, right? We're kind of like, oh, that was interesting, but it wasn't real. And I love how you just grabbed it and went with it. That's a big difference. That's something that I think is so important for people to, it's almost like you're giving people permission to listen to those voices in the head, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we all have that. We
Mm-hmm.
all get that guidance. And so often that we dismiss it as, oh, that was nothing or whatever. And our guidance, and especially the angelic realms, are really wanting to work with people right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that is the thing. Before I communicated with the angels, I would have never expected in a million years, as a physical being in a physical body, that we would get to have this kind of relationship with them.
Yeah.
So, of course, when it opened up, I'm like, yeah, sign me up, right? And at the same time, right, it made sense afterward when I started communicating with them. They said, why on earth would the great creator, God, set you up with a guardian and a guide who can't even talk to you? Why
Mm.
would that make sense? What are they supposed to do? Just watch you get yourself into trouble or go the wrong direction or whatever and not be able to actually guide you? Why would you have them as guides? Because I remember initially, now I grew up in the Christian Catholic faith, and my mother was of the Irish variety, which do believe and embrace the angels.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
she used to say that she used to talk to them. And I used to think she was crazy. Poor thing.
Okay, mom.
Yeah, exactly. But they were really good at telling her when I was up to no good. So I was like, there must be something to this, right? The angels told me you did this. It's like, oh, well, it's true. So it's like, where'd you get that? But at any rate, it made perfect sense to me that we should have access to them. And especially since there must be some bigger purpose besides coming here and getting lost
Yeah.
in what's here. There has to be some grand design, because you can feel that there's something more to this than just coming here, being in a body, getting a social security number and a bank account and
Right.
doing the best you can. Hopefully you make it, kiddo, right? But so when they started talking about the new earth, they definitely made it well known that speaking to the angels and being able to communicate with them is going to be something that would be on the rise, which it has over the last 20 plus years that I've been working with them. Is that now it can enter into a mainstream conversation like this.
Yeah. And it's amazing. It's
Mm,
so exciting that it's expanded, and in really such a short period of time. Angels kind of became a everyday concept, maybe about 15 years ago. And all
mhm.
of a sudden everybody was talking about angels. And I do have to say thank you, Doreen Virtue, for bringing that into the mainstream. And I know she had another journey to do, and we bless her and wish her the very best for that. And it's now like everybody talks about angels. They know that angels are a concept and something they can connect with. Maybe not just me, maybe not all the time. Maybe they won't talk to me. There's a lot of people that are a little bit like, oh, I'm not worthy. But everybody is worthy. It's a part of who we are and how God created us. And
Yes.
it's mainstream now.
Yes. And one of the things that I was actually hearing from them as you were talking just before you said, I'm not worthy, I heard them ask me to remind the audience that it is humility that connects us with them. Because when you mentioned those that have, come in and authored work about the angels, what's shifted is a bit more humility around the angels. Every time I start a reading or do hypnotherapy, I bring the angels into hypnotherapy and watch powerful things happen. And before I do that, I give everything to them, and even this work. And when people say something to me like, your presence or your energy, I know it's that. It belongs to the divine. It's not mine as an ego, right?
Right.
And those that say authored, and there are still some authors that bring it in with ego, which is one thing. And I have to remind the audience that there is a certain humility to connecting to this. So translate that not worthiness to I am part of the whole.
Yeah.
Because we are multidimensional beings in a human body. But over and above everything, we are the multidimensional being, which is why we have a bit of uh, a sort of a distorted relationship with our physical beingness
Yeah.
and our adequacy and our worthiness. Now, I know that when I went to school, I was bullied. And later I discovered that I created or signed up for that bullying as a soul agreement to install humility,
Yeah.
a kind of humility
Yeah.
that would cause me to be able to stay firmly tethered to this work.
Yeah. And
So,
it creates compassion too.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You really are able to have compassion for others' struggles.
And you can tell the difference,
Mhm.
right? And I know we were having a bit of a conversation before this, but in order to actually serve, I started down the path of setting this up like a business where people were getting emails and things like that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, that doesn't match with this.
Yeah.
Just, and I heard the angel say, just go out and share, just go out and love. And whoever feels like working with you, because I teach classes and courses that are a lot of fun, like you do, I should do a round robin. Take yours, take mine, and
Oh,
everything in
yeah.
between. Yeah. But that all the right people would come in.
Yeah.
And so, I had a business coach for a little while, and I let her go because I was like, I just have to trust that as long as I stay connected to the authenticity of the message,
Yeah.
that, I can serve and continue to serve. Right. And that's, people can tell the difference, whether you're packaging this up for monetization or whether you're actually here to serve and you have to monetize it because for now we have a money system,
Right. We're still in
which,
this money thing.
but not for long. Oh, the perfect
Yes.
timing.
Ooh.
I had an astral travel this morning.
Ooh, share.
Yes, I've been astral traveling to the ascension, but I astral
Oh, wow.
traveled. I was
Ooh, the
buying
chills.
I was buying land, and with this land, it was starting this sort of sharing and a reminder that the land was given to us by God, that we don't own the land. So it was somehow or another, I was liberating the land from that ownership paradigm, that linear paradigm. I was liberating it. And as groups, we were going in and loving the land, loving each other. It wasn't just a matter of growing food for our consumption, but it was a matter of actually living on the land and actually the unity. So a month ago, 2 months ago, I was in Santa Fe. And, of course, Santa Fe's on top of this great big obsidian.
Right, right.
And I astral traveled to the ascension where everyone was awake. There was no sleeping person anymore. There was no, and I think this is a good way of actually using different terminology instead of asleep and awake, because it almost kind of brings in something linear that it doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
Because we ourselves are asleep when we're in our linear mind, and we are awake when we're in our awareness, our heart, our higher mind, whatever word you, our higher self, whatever words you like. But we know what it is because it's more expanded.
Yeah.
And then we'll be there. And then all of a sudden something will happen. We'll be back in our sleeping. So we go in and out already. But there's a lot of humans who have yet to actually be reintroduced to their higher awareness. And so when I was in Santa Fe, I astral traveled to the ascension where everyone was operating from awareness. And that's what the ascension looks like, which means, of course, that we would build new structures based on awareness instead of the linear mind, which brings me back to, chapter 2 or version 2.0, this astral travel, because at that point, we are doing everything from awareness. We don't have separation consciousness. We don't have that kind of thing. And it was in that experience, it was beautiful, but it's coming. It's coming soon. And I don't know if soon means 3 or 5 or 7 years or whatever. And especially for those in the audience who are like, wow, is the world going to fall apart, before we get there? Yes, in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a good way. And that's why it's so important that we understand that we do have help. And the angelic realms, I believe, are very much that kind of that catch net.
Yeah.
And they've been here all along.
Yeah.
To help us and support us.
Well, yes, and that's the reason why they're coming to us in such an increasing amount and in such a more expanded and real way. The reason I teach people how to use tarot, and of course I designed an angel tarot deck to work with them. But the reason I teach people intuition and I teach how to communicate with the angels is because while we're going through this shift of going through the demolition phase, by being constantly connected to our angels, we have nothing to be afraid of. We're not going to run out of money. We're not going to get sick and die. We're not going to, there's all these things to become newly afraid of if we stay in our linear mind, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's heightened levels of fear that's being pumped into our ethos. And just an aside, before we vilify, those that pump the ethos with fear, actually, technically, because we still have duality, that heightened level of fear is a bit of a gauge and indicator of the heightened level of light that's in here.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes. So it's come up for transmutation, which is the journey through ascension, is the transmutation of that.
Yeah.
And the only reason that it's come up is because we're now actually collectively capable.
Yeah.
We actually now collectively have this. And it's because of all of this that we have been doing. At any rate, being connected to our angels, they are a bit of a navigation system for us. They're going to tell us where to be, when to be there, like go to Disneyland, right? Exactly. Yeah. The last 2 jobs that I had, they directed me right to them. The last one, they told me, don't go looking for a job. We'll bring it right to you. And yes, the angels do that. The only difference between if they can or if they can't is if you're tapped into them.
Yeah.
Right. And so the last time I needed a job to send me into, just working with people independently and teaching the classes and such. But the last time I needed a job to kind of get to that phase, they're like, oh no, we'll bring it. And of course, whatever they bring is perfect in every way.
Yeah.
It comes in exactly when and how it's supposed to, and it leaves exactly when and how it's supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And, one of the fears right now is money, right?
Big
And
time.
Yeah, in the collective ethos. And I want to speak directly to that, because when we have the angels by our side, when we're connected to them, we'll never have to worry about that, because whenever we need it, they're going to help us get it. If we need something that we can gain without having to use money to get it, they'll find a way for us to get that too.
Yep.
I've found money on the ground, just, but, and a lot of it too, just by
I
being,
have too.
yeah, just by being in the right place at the right time where they guided me to be. And everything is always met. I'll say this too. I remember when I lost my house back in the beginning, and I was in the real estate debacle stuff. And I was navigating through that period where no money was coming in the way that it used to. And everything was leaving that was supposed to. Everything was so beautifully orchestrated. And as that happened, I realized, oh, okay. When the banking system fails, when the whole monetary system collapses, this is learning how we're going to navigate through that. And I'm learning this so that I can teach others how to navigate through that banking system collapse that's coming. And it's not as scary as it seems, because when we're connected and aligned, we're going to navigate it through it beautifully. I remember when I lost my house, for example, and I'm just using this as an example, and I'm speaking, to the audience that would be concerned with finances right now, is that right as I was losing my house and I didn't know where I was going to go, a friend of mine had a house in Arizona that was sitting there vacant. And he, out of the blue, asked me if I could go and stay at the house for 3 months, because he didn't want squatters to realize that it was vacant. And I also did a lot of work on houses and stuff. He had um, rental properties in Arizona. He said, I got a few rental properties and I could use some help because some people are moving in and out, and I'll pay you.
Oh,
And
wow.
it just came through. And it's an example of how when we need something, it's going to show up, and it's going to show up in the way that we least expect it. But when we're tapped in, it's always going to show up.
And part of that too is giving in to what is happening instead of being in constant resistance to, because that's something even I struggle with. Even I, as if I'm elevated in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But
I say that too.
but it really is acknowledging that there is a higher divine order in things, and that you will be guided if you can get out of your way, if you can stop really resisting what's happening, but just be in the, okay, this is happening now. I know I'll be okay. I know I have everything within me to do through this, and that I'm divinely guided in every way, and really giving yourself permission, because you do learn how to live that way. And that is the future. That is the new earth.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yes.
is where we're going, or it's happening now.
Yes. Yes. And I love that we called the angels in, because everything that I feel compelled to share in this conversation, I'm of course hearing it from them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I feel compelled to share, especially in this is about empowering the audience, of course, is that, I'm gonna sort of quasi elevate even I, yes.
I know.
I think it's important to distinct the fact that, yes, even though I have the ability to tap in, connect, and watch miracles, yes, there are moments where I go back into the human state and I go, oh, what's going to happen here? And the reason why that's important to be authentic with that is because it doesn't give this idea that once we get there, that if we fall back, that something happened, that we're going to do that. We just have new tools to pick ourselves up more easily and quickly. So during one of those recently, I decided, wow, you know what I'm going to do today? There's nothing I can do about this situation today. It was like a Sunday. I'm going to surrender this to God. I'm just going to surrender it. And today, and if you notice, what's beautiful about the present moment is that most of what concerns us is a future moment that hasn't arrived. And spoiler alert, won't arrive via the fearful projection that we've made it to be.
Right.
So, you know what? There's nothing I can do about this today. There's no unmet need that I need to satisfy today or right now.
Right.
So I'm going to melt into present awareness, present moment, and I'm going to take this day. I'm going to go out and do everything fun that I can do, and I'm going to surrender the situation to God. And one time that I did this specifically, I remember that by the end of the day, the solutions to the challenges had already arrived via email. So I went from being in an expanded state, from being in that surrender, and being in that surrender, and being back in that fun, and being tapped in and aligned, to actually having the solution arrive, giving me more of that expansion. Now, I also want to say this to the audience as well. You know, if there's a retreat or a course or something like that that's going to give you access to this kind of stuff, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Invest in yourself. I remember when I was losing everything, I still found a way to come up with the resources that I needed to invest in my conscious expansion.
Yeah.
Right? Because we, when we invest in it, then we expand. I know that there's a lot of a lot of what we do to serve humanity and create great content, but we also have to invest in, for example, courses or books, or if we want to be entrained in a healing modality or whatever, we have to also invest in that and step into a new paradigm with that, because that's our future, is being in that expanded state. And sometimes going beyond the content that's being offered, as light workers are serving humanity, and investing in their work is such a great way to actually really step into that expansion.
Yeah. And support the community too. I know when I was getting on my spiritual path, I was a single mother, young kids, no
Mm-hmm.
child support. I was like, angels, what are you doing to me? But I always found a way. I got my Reiki training, got my pranic healing training,
Mm-hmm.
got certified as a psychic, and it always seemed to show up. And it always, the bills were paid, the rent was paid. And when I would look at my budget, there's no way that all this
Yeah.
stuff would happen, but it just did.
Well, and that's the magical thing about money, which is the reason why I mention this,
Yeah.
because by investing in that, it's going to come back. And I'll tell you a really cool story that's connected to that. See, because if we stop that, we stop the flow of what's coming to us.
Yep.
The universe will send us what we need later. One weekend, I was invited to go to a seminar for an entrainment in a healing modality that I really felt drawn to. The seminar was $500, and it was a whole weekend, which I couldn't work during that weekend. And I was like, you know what? This is my future of being in this expanded state. If I stop myself from going to this, I'll never get to that new expanded level, which is what I'm supposed to do in this. Now, this was sort of at the finishing stages of the real estate stuff. And when it was already sort of,
A little shaky.
I guess you could say it like that, right? So I went to this out of faith and out of knowing that I was investing myself, and because I invested my time and I invested my money in that, knowing that it would come back to me somehow. While I was there and in the presence of all of that frequency, two people that I wasn't working with called me and I wrote 2 offers and sold 2 houses and made $40,000 in that weekend. And that is the power, because when we do invest in ourselves, the time, and when we work with light workers and such, when we invest in that, in ourselves, it will come back to us, because it's that expansion that will make all the other resources available.
Yeah. And it's tapping into those frequencies that allow for that kind of manifestation to happen.
Yeah.
Because this third dimensional frequency that we're swimming in right now is designed around limitation. And that's why expanding the consciousness, expanding out beyond that, allows us to be in those frequency fields that are limitless, which there is no limit. And we really need to be conscious of that. And that's what the angelics bring to us, through us, as us, even in those experiences. And once you experience it 1 or 2 times, it's like, okay. And one thing that I want to say too, and Seph, I'd love for you to speak to this as well. I know I get people that they're saying, but I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to let go and nothing is working. It's not happening. What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Can you speak to that as well? Because I know there's a lot of people that struggle, maybe even people that are listening to this who've really been trying. What can we share with them to help them kind of break through that barrier, if you will? And we know it's within, but to bring some comfort and to bring some guidance. What do the
Yeah.
angels have to speak to that?
Yeah. Well, the first part of this that I would share to frame what I'm going to share is that we have 2 parts of ourself, which is our linear awareness, which is always going to be based in linearity, fear, and limitation. And we have our awareness, which is, say, the mind of our eternal essence, our multidimensional beingness.
Ooh, I like that.
And life in a human body is about integrating the 2. Now, the left brain, or the linear mind that we can sometimes call the ego, is not a villain.
No.
It does, however, not want to share the space with our multidimensional awareness. And it finds very clever ways for us to cut ourselves off from that. And so there is a bit of an inner struggle that happens. So if you're experiencing an inner struggle, congratulations, you're a multidimensional being in a human body. And your struggle is not something that is defective about you, that is any more challenging about your life. Because, and that's why I love being authentic about the challenges that I've experienced on this path, because as great as the miracles have been, I can tell you that the challenges have also been immense as well.
Yeah.
And that's an equal part of this equation, right? And that's why we're stepping into this realm where we're ready to work with people who can be authentic about that. And it makes perfect sense. But there's nothing broken or defective about you if you're having this, but your linear mind, your ego, as some people call it, has got the memo that you're expanding into your awareness, and it's making a power play to stay in power.
Yeah.
Remember, as above, so below. We have something playing out in the outer world, which is where linear structures realize that it's game over, and doing everything that they can to trick humanity into believing that it needs to be more fearful in order to sustain itself. Nothing could be further from the truth. And our linear minds are doing the same thing. So what I like to invite people to do is, when the linear mind has decided to show up, but it's so hard, it's so challenging, I can't do this. Every time I go do this, it does this. I tell them, imagine that you have a little remote control with a red button and point it at the screen in the outer world of the movie that you're living in and watching, that you are the creator, producer, director, and main character in, and click that red button and say, up until now, yes, that was challenging. But remember, the challenges always indicate a great victory.
Yes.
And if you trace any victory that you ever had, it never came in the window on a magic carpet.
Right.
It always came right after a challenge.
Yeah.
There's something about this world of duality, this dimension, where a victory is always the next component of a challenge.
Yeah.
And so if you're challenged, that means there's a victory.
Oh,
And instead of actually letting the left brain hijack us into believing that this challenge is permanent or a permanent limitation, which is what it's trying to do,
right.
then you go, remind yourself of all the other times that you've had a victory in your life and you had a challenge that preceded that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things I do with my clients is I have them write down the challenges and then how they came over it and what the outcome was eventually to get the ego back in line to seeing, oh yeah, wait a minute.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
did, because it really is. And I call it kind of like mastering the mind too.
Yeah.
It's like that little ego, it has such a wonderful job, but part of what happens too is the ego is afraid it's going to get annihilated. And
Mhm.
so it's like, no, wait a minute, ego, it's okay. We can all work together.
Yeah.
I'm not going to kill you off, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to
And
bring you with. You get to awaken too.
in the words of the famous Rodney King, can't we all get along?
Yeah, we all just get along. I love that. I used to have a t-shirt.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, the ego wants to steal the show again. And then of course, the more expanded our awareness becomes, the more the ego has to up its game as well. So if you're greatly challenged right now, all it means is that your awareness is
Yeah.
about ready to gift you. So take a couple deep breaths and just accept. And I'll tell you, nothing actually unhooks you from the ego more than surrender.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes, this always happens to me because, especially when you're training others to tap in consciously, there is an expectation. And I remember this when I wanted the angels to come in. I wanted these winged beings to come in. And instead, I just felt the feeling of touching and heard them connect with me. And it was still a very real connection. But I got to tell you, I expected something a lot more grand than that. Right. And
You're
so,
angels, for crying
yeah,
out loud,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And especially, there's all kinds of things. I remember when I went to go do meditation and I was expecting something. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was something different. And then one day while I was taking a shower and I got into a meditative state, I went, oh, I'm just supposed to get into this. And so the next time I went to meditation, I realized that it was a state that I already am in, and then I was able to go deeper in.
Oh,
So our expectations of what it's supposed to be are actually different than what it turns out, but that doesn't make it any less powerful.
right. And again, it's that surrender. Because I
Hmm.
know a lot of times, and I've done this too, where it's like, I want it to be this. If you're this, then give me this. And when
Hmm.
you don't get that, then it's not real. And a
Hmm.
lot of time that puts us in that position instead
Oh,
of just
yeah,
going into show me,
yeah,
show
and yeah, and the ego loves to make awareness wrong.
me.
You need me. You need me to survive.
Mhm.
Yeah, and notice that's a as above, so below, because that's going on out there. The power apparatus is like, oh, you need me to survive
Mhm.
from now on.
Look at how scary it is. Look
Yeah,
at how scary it is.
nomadic civilizations thrived on the land and in community for many, 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 many years, but now we need you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that nothing is further from the truth. You had
Right.
used that term before. I'm like, oh my God, it's so true.
Yeah.
Because it's coming back into stewardship too,
Hmm.
of the land and being a part of it all and being part of each other,
Right.
nurturing and loving each other. And that's what we're here doing,
Hmm.
and sharing that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that I wanted to ask you about too. And I want you to share your cards if we have a moment. You have these wonderful new oracle cards, and I'm so excited
Oh,
about them.
well, let's pull one for the audience. Let's do
Let's
that.
do
Yeah.
and
So
tell us how
here's
to
for
find
those
them. And
for those who can visually see, it's called the Ascension with the Angels Tarot deck. And so I have the tarot deck. It follows the traditional path, 78 cards. There were a few substitutions. I eliminated the devil card and the death card and made them the fear card. And I also made the death card the rebirth card, because that's what those cards really mean.
exactly.
So so there when I started on the journey to create these, I manifested the artist and I manifested everything to make them possible with the angels, and the angels kept sharing with me that there was an energetic activation in them, and that's what makes them special. So they're designed so that you can use them in regular tarot spreads. And of course I teach a tarot class, so I have a tarot community, and you go to my site, talktomyangels.com, and you could order the cards there, or you can also order the cards, but you can also join the community. The community includes a 10 module course that gives you individual videos on every single card. And I also teach the Rider Waite. So I teach the Rider Waite side by side with the Ascension with the Angels deck, so that people can use the information to read any deck they want. And then within the community, I do live coaching events where we go in, we do readings, and everybody gets a lot. And there's a community where people interact with each other and do that. And so I created that so that people can expand into their intuition with the angels and be able to continually expand in that journey. And then the community helps support that expansion. Because with this topic, you don't just take a class and it's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah,
Even
no,
now, my relationship with connecting with the angels is still evolving 20 plus years later. And
absolutely.
so, yeah, so the community idea, it made more sense because it's a way of continually supporting people, because these courses are really made to give people the kind of power that I feel like I've tapped into because of the angels, which is watching all these miracles and manifestations all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pull one card here, and it's going to be the Divine Right card.
I'm so excited. I've got to get the
Yes.
cards too. Wait, really quick before you pull the card.
The
I
Empress. Go ahead.
I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say, where can we get these? Are they on your website?
Yeah. Yeah.
So everything goes through your website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talktomyangels.com. I do hypnotherapy through there, and readings. You can join the community. And then I also have a group coaching class for communicating with the angels, teaching people how to communicate with them like you do. And so if you sign up for the events wait lists, when there's an announcement of a new class coming out, because I do that in small groups. I do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to make that a video course because it's the entrainment aspect of it. And it's fun to watch everybody experience all the miracles when they tap in anyway. But so I only allow a certain amount of people into the class so that everyone gets like a one-on-one interaction. And so this is still going back to like the old school, where we meet at a certain time and do that. So I put these in different, locations. And the angels gave me the second module too, which is the first one is sort of introducing how to connect with them and really how to entrain and conversing with them on an everyday basis.
Mm.
And the second module that they just gave me expanding into it is accessing our soul agreements and our purpose. So expanding from that connection and then accessing our soul agreements from our direct communication with our angels. And then, so it's 4 weeks and all that. And so it's really fun. So if that's something that appeals to you, just, put your name on the wait list for when there's an announcement for that. Also, I started a free community, which is super cool, on my site. And so people come in, and I do 2 events a month there. One is called Questions and Angels, and the angels guide us to do something. This month, they've guided us to play, recharge, and relax. So in other words, not worry, but plant seeds. So everyone in the community is planting seeds, like flowers or plants, like from seed. They're asking us to get into the energy of watching things manifest from a seed. And so people are going into the community and sharing, that kind of information with their seeds and all that. And each month, the angels are going to give us a new assignment. So in the community, if you can't make the events, they're recorded for you. So you go on my website, one of the first things that pops up is an invitation to be part of my free community. It's called the 444 Charging Station.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, because what the angels told me is that by creating this, and the chat circle is titled Field of Miracles, that by staying engaged with that kind of content, because you can post things, you can interact with other people posts, but everyone that's in there is posting on consciousness and that sort of thing. By staying in that expanded state, we will manifest more miracles.
Yes.
And since I've created it, I've been manifesting more miracles too. So apparently by creating such a field for others, does the same thing. And all that's accessible through talktomyangels.com. So I pulled the Empress card, which is the creativity card. And the Empress, as you can see, the Empress refers to like a pregnancy. Always in the Empress deck, the Empress is pregnant. And there's a couple things that comes up with the Empress card that is meaningful for our audience and meaningful for today. One is that pregnancy reminds us that everything has a gestation period. And that is a great big realization, to take a nice, deep, conscious breath in and out and realize that if you're in the middle of creating something and you're in your process, much in the same way that we get pregnant to give birth, we're not at 6 months going, where's that baby? Where's that baby? Right?
Get it out. I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't take it anymore.
I'm such a failure because I can't gestate a new human in 6 months instead of 9, like everyone else, right? Which means also when we're starting our businesses that we're called to, or we're doing something like that, that it has a process. And if it hasn't happened yet, it's not because it's not working. It's because it's gestating. It's forming. Every little piece of it is forming. But it also indicates creativity. So there's so much talk in our collective ethos that is contracting by nature, fear-based by nature, that's sort of upped its game. And this is a reminder that we're in an extremely expansive and creative cycle right now.
Yes.
So if you're tapping into your angels and you're tapping into that realm that they exist in, which is the quantum field or the mind of God, if you're tapping in at that level, you're going to be creating, and you're going to be watching as anyone who buys into the contraction is experiencing contraction. And those right now that are buying into the creativity and expansion, they are miraculously expanding with the help of their angels. So see this nice angel empress here, and she's holding the earth right here by her womb, which is that whole creativity through our creative center. And notice how the womb is located right next to the creative chakras, right? That's not a coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And so, for the sake of a group reading for the audience, I would really encourage you listening. If you're here listening to this, you're meant to know that you're not in a contracting phase. You're in an expanding phase. So come join the party with us. Is it challenging? Yes. Is it going to be difficult sometimes? Yes. Is it miraculously? Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting how when you give yourself permission to be in that expansive state, and but there's still a little bit of fear going on, to
Yes.
move through that fear, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not that there's not going to be fear,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so much easier. Oh, I'm getting chills. So much easier to move through it and to
Mm-hmm.
stay in that higher elevation as you're moving through that fear than if you kind of grab onto it and sink into that lower vibration where you're feeling stuck in, like you're in that resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And in that expanded state, it's like, oh, there's fear. Yes, I'm feeling that. Acknowledge it, but
Yeah.
continue to stay in that state. And we're learning to do that more and more and more. And thank you, angels, for helping us with
Yeah.
that, because that's
Yeah.
part of it.
And there is an inner conflict that we all have. There's an inner conflict that we all have. And that's that inner conflict between the linear part of us that exists in this dimension and the multidimensional part of us that is from a more expansive dimension that is still actually there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an iceberg. There's just a small piece of us that's here. The majority of our beingness is still firmly, securely, and lovingly planted in the dimension of all possibilities, right? And positivity and high vibration. So, there is an inner conflict, and sometimes it's very interesting how uh, we'll have someone, like something or someone that will come in our life, and suddenly there goes the left brain, like creating this drama inside our heads. And it's like, oh, I recognize you. I know which one you are. You having fun down there? Isn't it
Isn't
time?
that the truth?
Isn't it time for you to take a little coffee break?
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that reading and for sharing. That's
Mm.
so good. And I know we've got our hour, and I know you've got clients coming up. So I don't want to keep you so much more. I could just talk to you all day long, Seph. I just absolutely adore you
And
and so happy
and
that I
back
met
at you.
you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay. Yay.
Yeah.
What an angelic blessing.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And I just want to remind everybody, and Seph, I really would like to continue our conversation at some point. Because you have so much to share, and I'm definitely going to go over and join your community and get your cards and become a part of what you're doing. Because I really feel it's important that we all connect up too. And I want
Yes.
to very quickly share with you, I was big, big, big on the angels for a long time. And I started doing some other work that kind of made me kind of tiptoe a little bit backwards from the angelic realms. And I wasn't comfortable with it. And I was having a little bit of a, do I not? It's not that I worried that they're not there, but there, other factors that were going in, and having met you, it's really brought the angels back into my life full
Oh,
force. So I want to thank you very, very
wow.
much. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, there's many times throughout my wanting to share the angel's gift with people that I've sort of wanted to put them in the backstage, is the way that I would
Mhm.
put that, and
Yeah.
make it about self-empowerment and coaching and things like that. I have no doubt that people like Tony Robbins are actually working with the angels, but
Yes.
working with them on their own and not necessarily broadcasting it to the audience. So I felt like, how can I reach people if I'm talking about angels and people have a hard time believing in them? But the angel said, no, no, keep us in your message, keep us in the brand. And in fact, I make it all about them, and I bring them in with everything that I do. Every reading, every hypnotherapy session, it all gives back to them. And every class that I give comes from them. Every meditation that I channel comes from them. And now, of course, that is expanding because people are understanding.
Yes.
So it makes us understand. The only reason that we sometimes, like you say, tiptoe back from it is because, we get told things in the linear world like, well, you can't market that. You can't bring people to the angels because it's too vast, or it's too this, or it brings up that and all that. It's like, no, the world is changing, and staying authentic with your message and staying authentic with the angels is the way to go.
And they
Yeah.
bless that all the time.
Yeah, they
They
do.
bless it all the time.
And at the same time, I will distinct, because a lot of times people ask, like, who's my angel? What's their name? Which ones are you talking to? And I also have to add that the angels are a field of consciousness.
Yes.
And as much as they can manifest themselves as Metatron, Raphael, or Nancy the parking angel, which is especially helpful at Trader Joe's in Studio City, where there's no parking, but Nancy can still find a parking spot, right? Even though they can shape shift and become whoever they become. I do a hypnotherapy session called Meet Your Angels, and they will manifest themselves. Sometimes they've come in as a lumberjack. Sometimes they've come in as someone in a suit. They've come in all kinds of different ways, but if they are externalized through the hypnotherapy, it's just a way for that field of energy to communicate with us on an ongoing basis. And we can use those images as a way of talking to them as if they're separate people or separate beings, but they are actually an extension of ourselves. And we can have both without having to actually sort of divide it. Is it this or is it that? It's both. It's a combined field of consciousness or awareness that is in the mind of God. Okay. So technically, when we're dealing with the angels, we're dealing with God, but a messenger aspect of consciousness. And in a way, if we want to close our eyes and let one of our angels appear to us, it may come to us as a leprechaun or that kind of thing. And when we see them around us, we can manifest them that way. We'll feel their energy. We'll see a spark of light or whatever. But the angels are much more active than ever, especially as we're letting go of the old and bringing in the new. They're there to guide us every step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're here to give us steps to step onto.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of how they've shown me. It's like, just surrender. We'll
Mm-hmm.
place that stepping stone in front of you
Mm-hmm.
as you move forward.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid. And as we learn to do that, they're able to be more powerfully in our lives too.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about the surrender.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to let you go.
Mm-hmm. I love you lots, and to the audience, sending you lots of love, and the angels as well, and look forward to connecting with you as well.
Thank you so much, Seph. Thank you so much. So again, very quickly, talktomyangels.com, Seph Dietlan. You can find all of his stuff. He's got a wonderful community. And I hope I'll see all of you guys that are watching over there too, because I'm going to go play as well.
Yes, I love that.
Yay. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much,
Thank
Seph.
you. Thank you.
Blessings.
Blessings.
Blessings.